Do you like to read? And how are books helping you nurture a healthy spirituality? Welcome to today's Healthy Spirituality Book Chat. I try to hop on Facebook Live once or twice a month and share a little bit about some of the books that I'm reading that help me grow in my faith and that you might find interesting to explore and read on your own to nurture your own faith. My name's Jean Wise. I'm a writer, speaker, retreat leader, spiritual director, and a deacon. And I write twice a week on the blog healthyspirituality.org. And I have written several books that are available on Amazon. And I really like to help people explore and discover different faith practices and stories of faith that nourish their own personal spiritual growth and help them lead to a vibrant, healthy spirituality. So I'm glad you're with us today. And in these monthly book chats or twice a month book chats, I try to feature something that I'm currently reading or just finished reading that might also help you. So I have 3 books to share with you today. On that, and I would be amiss if I didn't mention, because we have the Lenten season coming up here, and it starts February 14th. Yes, Valentine's Day starts the Lenten season this year, and one of the greatest things we could do, especially if you are a reader, is to find a Lenten devotion to read. I wrote one last year called 40 Voices, a Lenten devotion. It's available, and actually right now is at a discounted price over at Amazon, both as an ebook and as a print book. So I encourage you to go over, and if whether you buy my book, it doesn't matter, but find a good Lenten devotion to kind of dig into the Word of God during the Lenten season. I think you'll enjoy that. So the 3 books I've got for you to share today. The first one was a surprise find for me, and it's called Messages from God, an illuminated devotion. And the author is Kathleen Schwab, and the photography done here is done by Therese Kay. I know Therese Kay through another group that I am with here on Facebook. We're in a writer's group together, and she happened to mention the book, and that's why I kind of looked at it, and it is a gem. I cannot tell you how beautiful this book is. Just from the photography point of view, Therese took some beautiful pictures. I'm going to try to show you a few here, but I know Facebook Live just never does these justice, because you have to hold them up odd, but I will show you a few of the illustrations in it. It's called Daily Life, and you can see how beautiful the photography is in this book. And look at that dragonfly up close. See if I can get that centered like that dragonfly. In that, it's just the beautiful colors and the crispness of her photography is great. There's a spiritual practice called Visio Divina. Divina meaning sacred, visio meaning sight. And it's just like it's sacred sight when you look at a picture or a painting or the creation that God gave us outside in your garden. You look at a flower up close, often that brings you into the holy, brings you time to be with God. And it's a wonderful moment, a spiritual moment. And that's what this book does. The pictures bring you closer to God. And then there's devotions to go along with them. This Kathleen Schwab has shared parts of her journal. She's revised them a little bit, and they read sort of like, if you're familiar with the Jesus Calling book, where it's like God is talking to you. It is, you can really feel the intimacy and the love that comes through the words of this book. They're short. Ones I'm reading and supplementing with my daily reading in the morning, and it's been a delight. So it would be a wonderful gift, not just for you, but a book to give to someone else. And again, it's called Messages from God, an illuminated devotion. And I'll show you one more time a couple of the pictures in there. You can see how they are. There's water, and then there's the devotion next to it. It's got beautiful quotes in it and Bible verses, devotions, and photography. And I think you would enjoy it. It's called Messages from God, and I know it is available on different sites. I think there's a website called that same thing, but it's also available on Amazon. The second book is more of a resource for you, like within your congregations, and it's called Grounded in Prayer, a small group training guide for congregational prayer. It is Brian, and I'm going to hold it up so you can kind of see his last name, Dancing. It is DAHLSENG. He's the author. This is a wonderful little book I think you could read individually about prayer, or you could take to a small group, or also especially a small group like a leadership group that's trying to reinvigorate prayer ministry within your church. It's based on the parable of the sower from Mark 4, and the seed of faith falls on 4 types of soil: the hardened path, the rocky ground, the thorny ground, and the good soil. And so it looks at different weeks and has some individual readings, responses, some activities to do, and it's a really good book for discussion, I would say, within a group on that. It's based 6 weeks: the groundwork of prayer, sharpening your personal tools of prayer, praying for the hardened path, praying for rocky ground, praying for thorny ground, and blessing the good soil. We're actually going to use this book as a foundation for our messages for our Wednesday Lenten services this year at our own congregation and in a neighboring congregation. So it is something to consider, a good resource, and I think it would freshen up your small group in that way, especially if you're looking to somehow expand and grow your faith, especially the prayer ministries within your church on that. The last book I want to share with you, the third book that I'm featuring today, is called In Constant Prayer, and it's by Robert Benson. Now, I always smile when I think of Robert Benson. I was privileged enough to hear him speak at the Florida Christian Writers Conference a number of years ago, and he is just such a quiet, gentle-natured man, very deep, very thoughtful, but very real. You just want to come up and right alongside him and say, yes, that's right, you nailed it. He can really just express what's deep inside you. So when I picked this book up again, I've had this on my shelf for a while, I could hear Benson's voice, and I think it's mainly because I heard him before. That was one reason why I really enjoyed this book again. This book looks at sort of how you can best implement what's called the daily office. The daily office is a regular way of praying, and a certain way of praying the hours. Some people pray 7 times a day. He prays 3 times a day, I believe, like morning, noon, and night, and follows a certain form of prayer and reading of the Psalms. And you're not only just reading it by yourself, people throughout the world and throughout the centuries have read the daily office. What I like about this book is that, yes, it tells you a little bit about how to do it, but it encourages you through, to me, the tough places of doing the daily office. I've played a little bit with doing the daily office, and it is hard to make that commitment and to immerse yourself in that prayer over and over and over again, 3 or 7 times a day or 5 times a day, whatever pattern that you follow, day after day after day. And he really addresses some of those issues that we face. Some of this sometimes, isn't this getting kind of daily and mundane? Isn't this, I'm doing this each day and I'm not sure I'm getting any place. I'm not sure I'm accomplishing anything. I have a tendency to be a doer, not a beer. And I think this book invited me to slow down and immerse myself in prayer and learn what really does work with prayer. He is so honest in that way, how that pattern can, the drudgery sometimes of daily prayer. He just faces that reality of it, and it inspired me to go deeper and to stay with it. So I think that's kind of what I've thought. I've really liked the deep thoughts on there and the inspiration and kind of the recommitment to maybe try the daily office again. So 3 books that I shared with you today, if you're interested. The first one's called Messages from God, an illuminated devotional. This is really a beautiful book. The second book was more of a resource for a church prayer committee, leadership committee, anybody who's looking at expanding a prayer ministry in their church. It's called Grounded in Prayer, a small group training guide for congregational prayer. And then Robert Benson's book, In Constant Prayer, which will give you a lot of background inspiration to practicing the daily office. I don't know if you could see it, but I have multiple pages turned down that I want to go back and journal about and reread as I finish up this book on that. I invite you to go over and check out my blog, healthyspirituality.org, where we talk about different books like this, different other faith practices. It's the year of prayer over there. So in 2018, we were really exploring different aspects of prayer throughout the year. It's also the year of reading, because I said this year I wanted to get to some of these books, reread a few I wanted to read, and get into some of these books that I have purchased that sit here around my house that I don't ever get to reading. I really want to do it. And one of the things I'm being accountable is to come on once or twice a month here on Facebook Live and kind of report back to you guys, hold me accountable now to this, report back to you guys kind of what I'm reading and I hope it inspires you to read. You know, reading is a wonderful way to grow and feed our spirituality and our faith in God. Don't forget to get a Lenten devotion of some sort, even if it's not mine, but the Lenten devotions are available right now. This is on discount on Amazon until the end of January, so I hope that you check it out. And thank you for joining me here today on Healthy Spirituality, and I'll see you again in a few weeks with a few more books for next month's book chat. Bye now, and we'll see you over on the blog.